When we first started the series on the story, one of the ideas was that each of us would be able to tell the story in our own way. One of the ways of telling the story is through art, maybe through painting, through dance, through poetry, through drama. And one of the other ways of telling the story is through food. So if you wanted to have children remember things about the story, you might associate it with different kinds of food. The Jewish holidays can be summed up in 10 words. They tried to kill us, God saved us, let's eat. So each one of the holidays has special foods associated with it. The Passover meal, as commemorated by Jesus at the Last Supper, celebrates the delivery of Israel from slavery from Egypt. In addition to that, it commemorates the deliverance of us from sin as well. There's many different foods that are represented, and they all have symbolic meaning. Each of the foods then has a particular story associated with it, helping the children to remember the story. But the most interesting part of the story is the matzah. There's a bag which is called the Unity, and the matzah bag contains 3 compartments, and in it are 3 pieces of matzah, and the 3 pieces of matzah are referred to as one. During the course of the meal, the middle matzah is removed. You notice the matzah is striped as well as pierced, and the matzah is without leaven, so it's flat. Leaven represents sin, and the striped and pierced represents what happened to Jesus on the cross. So the middle matzah of this unity is broken in half and then wrapped in a linen shroud, and then the middle piece is buried somewhere away from the meal. And then at the end of the meal, we continue celebrating. At the end of the meal, the children go looking for it. And when the children find the middle piece, wrapped in its linen napkin, the middle piece is reunited with the other 2. And it was this piece of bread after dinner that Jesus picked up and said, "This is my body, which is broken for you." So it was wrapped in a linen cloth, buried, hidden for the whole meal, and then reunited with the other 2 to form the unity. The name of this piece of matzah is called afikomen, which is a Greek word for he who comes. The whole process of telling this story is called Haggadah, to tell, and each of the books tells a story through food and different things acted out. And the entire meal is called the Seder. Seder means order. And so we know that Jesus picked up this piece of bread after dinner, and since it was done in a certain order, we know that it was the afikomen that he was referring to. In addition, there's 4 cups of wine that are drunk through the meal. And each of the cups of wine represents a different thing that God wants us to remember as well. The 4 cups of wine represent sanctification, plagues, redemption, and praise. And depending on where you are in the order of the service, that's how you know which cup Jesus picked up. So since it was after dinner, he picked up the cup of redemption and said, "This is the new covenant in my blood, which is shed for you. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me." The last cup was the cup of praise. And he said he would not get to drink this cup again until he drank it with us in the kingdom. And so that cup is reserved to that time. So using all these different foods, we can tell the story. Children remember it through taste and smell and touch and sight and hearing, and that helps them to remember to tell the story about how God delivered the Israelites from Egypt, delivered them from physical slavery, as well as how Jesus delivered us from spiritual slavery, from slavery to sin. And we celebrate it each year during Passover, which roughly coincides with Easter. But it was this Last Supper, the Last Seder, that Jesus celebrated, that he instituted to help us remember this particular new covenant.